Life Audio.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Empowering Homeschool Conversations. I'm your host, Peggy Ployer, and I'm so excited to have you join us today. Here on the show, we explore ways to support and empower homeschooling families, providing practical strategies and insights to help parents nurture their unique learners. Today, we are diving into an exciting topic, teaching kids about the world through food. Food is more than just nourishment. It's a gateway to culture and history and connection. And who better to join us on this journey than my guest, Rowena Scherer, the founder and CEO of Eat to Explore. Rowena created Eat to Explore, an award-winning experimental cooking kit designed to bring world cultures to life through food. Her company has been featured in Forbes, New York Times, CNN, The Wall Street Journal, BuzzFeed, and even on the Today Show. But before launching this incredible resource, Rowena had a successful career in global finance, working with JP Morgan in cities around the world, from New York to Singapore and Sydney. Growing up in Malaysia, some of Rowena's fondest memories were cooking with her family, a tradition she realized she wanted to pass on to her own children. During a family cooking class on vacation, she was inspired to create a hands-on way for kids to explore global cuisines while developing life skills and cultural awareness. After studying at the French Culinary Institute in New York, she set out to build a platform that combines family, food, travel, and education into an enriching experience for families everywhere. Today, she's here to share how you can make mealtimes an adventure and use food as a powerful tool for learning about geography, history, and cultural traditions, all from the comfort of your own kitchen. Welcome to the show, Rowena.
Thank you, Peggy. I'm honored to be here, and thank you for a great introduction.
Oh, absolutely. I am so excited about this. I love food. Maybe I don't, it doesn't look like I love food, but I do. Just
It makes me
age sparingly.
happy.
But love culture and travel too. My son and I had an experience where we went to Colombia, and we actually hired a woman that had given Anthony Bourdain his tour through the Colombian marketplaces, and she gave us the same tour.
Wow.
And it was just a shifting experience for my son, who was about 13, and we just had such an amazing day to realize, that when you go into different cultures, that their food speaks. And I'm excited to share this experience with parents and what you offer to them, to be able to not have to, travel around the world to be able to have those cultural experiences. So that's awesome. We do have some viewers on live with us. So if you're live, you have questions, you want to know anything, join the conversation. Put your questions in the feed and let us know what you're wondering about. And we will definitely add those into the questions that I've already pulled together for Rowena. But I think your background is absolutely fascinating. Can you tell us more about just your journey from global finance to now where you're at right now, Eating to Explore?
Thank you. So you've mentioned I grew up in Malaysia. I actually come from a small town, never travel at all. Like, it's amazing that I've now lived
Wow.
in so many countries. But then I got a scholarship to go to New Zealand, halfway around the
Okay.
world, and it was my
Yeah.
first time on a plane going there as a
Yeah.
foreign student. And it just opened up my eyes, and I really think that opportunity to see the world really have a big impact on a lot of people, right? And
Right.
also to
Yeah.
see that it's not that much difference than us. So that was like my
Right.
first time leaving the country, checking out New Zealand, went to college there. And the reason I ended up in finance, it's basically a job, right? It's a job that
Right.
that pays
We
the
all did that.
bill. Exactly, pays the bill, and get me to eventually come and live in New York. And along the way, I live in 6 different countries with JP Morgan, and travel a ton. So I've been to over 20 countries. And so that's I would say, a very successful life already. But then what I always have loved since growing up is food. It's like cooking, it's learning what's in the market. Like I'm just curious in that sense. And like just understanding where does that come from? What's that spice? So that has always been a
Right.
part of me. And then with along the way as I travel, that's always where I go for, right? Where's the market? What's the food? What do they eat? So it comes almost second nature. So I ended up doing a culinary degree while working on Wall Street, thinking that I just need to want to enhance that experience. It makes me happy, makes me who I am.
Right.
But down the road, much later, when I saw my kids, my own kids, realizing that I need to teach them. I think kids,
Right.
it's like part of my upbringing. And because of that, I love food. And because of that, I'm always curious. Like they should be the
Right.
same. They should have the opportunity to build up their own love for food.
Yeah.
And I come into this country too, thinking, you know, U.S. is such a diverse country, but then the food is so limited, you know,
It
that,
really is. Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Well,
You stick to those same aisles and the same place, and then they got this little international, and you're like, wait, that's not like there's not much to pick from.
and the funny thing is like America is immigrants, right? It's built up on
Yeah.
immigrants for generations and generations. And so
Mhm.
I think kids these days are curious about where they come from, curious about, you know, like, am I part of Irish? Am I part of German? Am I part of, you know,
Yeah.
wherever you are from, Poland. And then, you know, what are the food that they actually eat? So now I think it's actually, I feel the time is right for Eat to Explore, something like an Eat to Explore, where people are now
Right.
curious and now they can actually do it at home and bring it to their own experience. So it's a long
Absolutely.
story
Yeah.
around. I ended up being financed because it pays the bill.
Right.
Now I'm doing what I love, and I really think
Right.
people need it. I really think society need to have this time together and cooking together. It's been for generations the way families bond, right? They come together during
Absolutely.
like major
Yeah.
festivals or just, you know, in Italy or most places, every weekend they come together and they cook, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. So I'm assuming, these experiences in your childhood really affected and shaped how you viewed food and culture. Do you have any special memories with your family that are kind of like those anchor points for you?
So two families, like my own immediate family, I used to cook every Sunday with my mom and my sisters. And then I started the tradition of cooking with my kids. So now when they come back, we'll cook together. And definitely Thanksgiving, if everyone's in home, we will, you know, make sure everyone cook a dish. But
Right.
now they're 21 and 18. They know how to make a meal, which I'm very proud of.
Yeah, yeah, we did that this last Thanksgiving, and because my kids are all adults too, and so when we got together, I was like, okay, what's your favorite foods? And now I'm going to teach you how to make it if you don't remember. And
Right,
so,
right,
yeah,
right.
it's important, and there's so much that you share around food, and
Yep,
they kind of integrate into your whole family life. So,
yep.
if you make it that way. Yeah, so
Exactly. It's a
for
routine. I
yeah,
think you just need to create that.
yes, exactly. Yeah. So how can cooking be an effective tool for teaching kids about culture?
So thanks for asking because there's so much soft skills and hard skills that you learn with cooking, right? And I also like to
Right.
incorporate the cultural part because that's what makes it exciting, right? You don't have to do the same repertoire. You can talk about, okay, you're using chicken still, but hey, if you think about it, that chicken in different culture just brings out different flavors, right? And so it's
Absolutely. Yeah.
again driven by the spices that you use, the condiments that you use. And so incorporating cultural learning makes it fun, first of all.
Mhm.
And cooking, you already have like even the shopping, it has math skills, right? You can do a budget, you can
Yes.
do a quantity, you have health learning, right? Healthy eating,
Yep.
you know, what is this a protein? You can actually teach you know biology and science, like is this considered
Right.
protein or is it a carb or is it like what kind of vitamins and what are the vitamins for, right? And so just shopping alone you have incorporated science and math and health and then if you incorporate the cultural part, then you can add history, geography, for sure, right? And then you can do music and art. I always said, and now with our new, we're constantly adding new things. We just added a playlist on Spotify. So you get like a traditional playlist or like a chill playlist or more like a best of from the country playlist. So you can play the music and actually even talk about what instruments they're using, right? Then that's the art. And I really can't imagine like anything else that you don't cover under cooking. Like I think all the traditional subjects can be covered by just cooking alone.
Right.
And cultural, and cultural learning.
So true. Cultural too. We will continue this conversation after a short break.
Moms are amazing. They balance family, work, and countless daily challenges. They're constantly being pulled in 1,000 different directions and taking care of everyone else, which can sometimes lead to feeling overwhelmed, alone, and unappreciated. Moms, you are not alone. The Dayspring Daily Devotional Bible for Moms was created for moms just like you. Real moms with real-life joys and challenges. Be encouraged with daily reminders that God loves you, sees you, and is with you always. Short daily devotionals will deepen your awareness of God's presence and bring you peace, wisdom, strength, encouragement, truth, and so much more. God has a very special view of motherhood, and we pray that moms of all ages and stages will let the word within this Bible speak to their hearts as moms. Deepen your awareness of God's presence with the Dayspring Daily Devotional Bible for Moms. Learn more at BibleForMoms.com.
Let me tell you that God's gonna cut you.
It's Holy Week in Jerusalem, and the city is restless. The people of Israel welcome Jesus as king, his followers ready for revolution. But instead of taking the throne, Jesus turns the tables.
Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees! How will you escape being condemned to hell?
Experience Holy Week like never before.
What have you done?
Coming soon to theaters, The Chosen, Last Supper. Get your tickets now.
This is Empowering Homeschool Conversations, provided by SPED Homeschool, a nonprofit that empowers families to home educate diverse learners. To learn more, visit spedhomeschool.com.
But also family, getting your family involved. How does that enrich our relationships as well?
My kids grew up, I just still remember my daughter, first thing is like swipe, right? They just like born with it. Everything is like, why is this not swiping? Right? I mean, everything is so technologically ingrained in their head that they need a break. We all need a break from our screen, right? Mm-hmm. And I say, when you're cooking, you actually have to take a time off from because you have to get both hands have to be occupied. And so, family time, as I think you have evolved, right? I think we used to spend a lot more time, and then there are times when people are just so busy, overscheduled. But I think more and more today, people are like, how do I find that time together? How can we create activity where we're actually doing it together? And cooking together as a family is an activity where you can say, do you want dinner? Yeah. Let's make a dinner, right? We can
everybody gets hungry.
Everybody gets hungry. You got to eat. Let's just, take a pause for 30 minutes. You're going to dice an onion. So I like it as a family activity. And that's how we kind of structured our cooking steps. It has like chef hats on how difficult it is. And I always encourage parents to make it like, pick a Saturday or Sunday. This is how you, just once a week. This is our time together to cook. First of all, let's go grocery shopping. We give you a list. You follow the steps. You check the box and give them a $20 budget and say how much you can get with $20 on this list, right? And then come home, and then someone can you're cutting the onion, you're cutting the pepper, you're chopping the chicken, then, all right, everyone's done. What's the next step? So you have reading that too, because you can have one of the child read the steps, and then are you doing what it said it should be done, right? Mm-hmm. And then all the preps are done. and then you cook, and then while they prep, you can like, okay, let's do more research about the country that we're cooking right now. What would you have? What are we learning about it? And then eat. While you're eating, you can have a conversation. That's a lot
awesome.
that can be, that's like 2 hours right there, and it's quality 2 hours. It's not you're driving.
It is, you're constantly
somewhere.
interacting with each other.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it, and not everybody. There are times like I think people always like, if the parents are not much into cooking, they might say, this is not me. But hey, you should learn. Parents should learn, right? Let's learn together. Let's look at it in a different way and say, all right, I'm not a good cook. We know we've been eating out a lot. It's expensive eating out, and we're not really bonding. Let's just let's take time and we learn together, right? The parents can learn, the kids can learn. And we do have, I also added videos now. I started to do a lot of cooking videos. Watch the video beforehand. It's really, cooking can be intimidating. Yeah. It's not hard once you overcome that confidence issue.
Yeah. And so many people they just weren't taught in this past generations even how to cook, and so it is kind of a fearful thing. But I think I've noticed, even with other, cooking has always been one of my favorite things to do, so that hasn't been a sticking point for me. But other things that I have struggled in the past, when my kids see that I'm trying to learn something, they come in and they want to be more supportive, and they're like, oh, well, let's do this together, or I want to learn alongside you. And they realize you're trying, and then they kind of want to try with you. So like you said, it just have, get the help that you need. And if you need Rowena's videos, then that's great that you offer those, because it can be very intimidating at first. It's like, how do you skin a chicken? I don't know. Or something like that. Yeah. So that's great. But, so you're talking about all these hands-on things. And so we have learned that hands-on activities are great for enhancing memory. How have you seen that happen with your own curriculum, that that these skills can embed that information further, instead of just, talking about a culture or reading about it in a book or listening to the music? How does this whole experiential part of it make that learning stick even more?
So 2 things, right? Learning together with your family. You as a child growing up, you will remember, I remember doing this with my mom or doing this with my family, right? Yeah. And studying about this rather than in a classroom. Sometimes they're just like, okay, it's another subject, right? And I have to learn it. Whereas if you're making it like an active learning, right? Mm-hmm. And also more creating that experience and relating it to something that you do physically, it just have a bigger impact, and it just hits that memory a lot more. Yeah, right? You're creating memories, and this skills transferable. It's transferable to over the ages, right? So you might say, as a family that's kids who are 4 and a 7 and a 9, that 4 years old is going to be the 7-year-old, and then the skill keep developing, right? And they will remember that, I now know how to do this. So it's not only just the physical skill set, but it's also by incorporating the cultural part, you're actually more inclined to remember geography than reading geography.
Oh,
Yeah. Right. If you're saying, okay, now I can understand why, because, I'm making the food from here. And the reason is because this is where the spice come from. Or that's where the immigration, that's why Peru has, kind of have an Asian flair because the Japanese came and immigrated there. And so you can incorporate the history, and then you learn it faster and including the geography and stuff. I think that's why homeschooling is very effective when you actually do more practical life skill stuff.
Right. Yes. And I've seen that with my own kids. It's just was so important that we did. did those things that were hands-on, because now that they're adults, if I ask them what they remember about school, it goes back to those experiences that they had that were embedded really deep because it was impactful to them.
Yep.
Not that we did, this math lesson one day
Right.
that went
Right.
in and out,
Right.
on the next day. So yes, those are the
But if you
things
do
that
the
remember.
math, if you use the math as in, well, giving you a $20 budget, how many can you get? And how many, what's the quantity? Actually, they probably learn more in terms of math than just
Exactly.
simple math.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That is so true. Yeah. So can you share a memorable story of a family that was impacted by your curriculum, Eat to Explore?
My family or other families?
Either or.
My family's, when I first started this, we started ours because I was so disappointed with them not knowing how to cook. And I grew up cooking with my mom every weekend. I call it my onion aha moment, because they were literally at a cooking class at an onion, and they're like, what am I going to do with it? And I'm like, when I was your age, I was like cooking a storm and feeding the whole family.
Right.
So I actually started cooking with them, and they will remember now like what they love about it and what they don't. And they will now like routinely, when they come back, they will make the one they love. But from customer perspective, I have received, and I read not all, but I read most of the feedbacks coming from our customers, and some are just amazing, where there is a homeschool family, and he's like, my son have never touched chicken ever until Eat to Explore come about. And now he's eating the way around the world. He's reading better. He's, all the math and learning about geography. It's just like, it's transforming his son's life in a way that he never really thought it will happen. And now it's just amazing. I really am very happy where people will be like, oh yeah, we make this Jamaican jerk chicken. And then we like listen to the reggae music while we cook. And then after that, we watch Cool Running as a family, and it was like a perfect evening.
Right. Yes. It's pretty easy to put together a whole evening activity, and and you don't even have to go outside your house, which is great, other than the shopping. Yeah.
Right.
That's cool.
Exactly.
So we will continue this conversation after a short break.
Moms are amazing. They balance family, work, and countless daily challenges. They're constantly being pulled in 1,000 different directions and taking care of everyone else, which can sometimes lead to feeling overwhelmed, alone, and unappreciated. Moms, you are not alone. The Dayspring Daily Devotional Bible for Moms was created for moms just like you, real moms with real-life joys and challenges. Be encouraged with daily reminders that God loves you, sees you, and is with you always. Short daily devotionals will deepen your awareness of God's presence and bring you peace, wisdom, strength, encouragement, truth, and so much more. God has a very special view of motherhood, and we pray that moms of all ages and stages will let the word within this Bible speak to their hearts as moms. Deepen your awareness of God's presence with the Dayspring Daily Devotional Bible for Moms. Learn more at BibleForMoms.com.
Let me tell you, the God's gonna cut you.
It's Holy Week in Jerusalem, and the city is restless. The people of Israel welcome Jesus as king, his followers ready for revolution. But instead of taking the throne, Jesus turns the tables.
Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees! How will you escape being condemned to hell?
Experience Holy Week like never before.
What have you done?
Coming soon to theaters, The Chosen, Last Supper. Get your tickets now.
This is Empowering Homeschool Conversations, provided by SPED Homeschool, a nonprofit that empowers families to home educate diverse learners. To learn more, visit spedhomeschool.com.
You touched on a little bit the picky eater. And I think a lot of parents are like, oh, no, we can't do that because the chicken nuggets are all that's we talk about in our house. How do parents navigate that when their child is got some, pretty high food. They're not sensitivities, but just aversions.
So I always ask parents, I'm like, how did it all started, right? If you think about it, all the kids and all babies grew up the same way. They're clean slate, right? Who they are or what they eat is how we have fed them, right? And
That's
the
true.
lack of exposure, right, will create the child who they are. Like I never encourage parents to allow two type of food, right? Eat what is on your plate, otherwise don't eat at all, right? It's like,
Right.
why are we
I've got a
making
sign like that in my
separate,
kitchen. It
right?
says eat or
I mean,
starve.
the truth is no other country that I know of have a separate kids menu except America. It's like, why do we have kids menu? They're like the same food. Everywhere I travel, everywhere I've lived, I grew up eating what everyone eats, the same meal, right? And because of that, your palate developed that way, right? Your palate was not developed to just eat chicken nugget, burger, pasta, right? You're developed to eat sauteed vegetables and stew beef or, steamed fish. Like that's because that was what's on the available to you, and you're hungry, you eat, right? So and unfortunately we can't change, I mean, most parents are like, well, they are who they are now. But what my advice would be, never too late. It's never too late to have them get involved. So the first step is get them to be part of the journey of cooking together. The half the time, kids they don't know what it is. They're like, oh my God, you put them a plate of like some ingredients that they can't even recognize, let alone speak of, they will not eat it, right? But if you show them, okay, this is what it is, and this is why it's important to you, start from the basic, right? Show them the broccoli, show them what it is, and then get them to cook it with you. I just remember doing I was teaching at the French culinary, the Lycée Français in New York, all the third grader, and I actually only do vegetables. And we were doing a vegetable, I think it was a vegetable dumpling or empanada that's only vegetables. And I like, what is zucchini? Nobody know what it is. This kid's like, whoa, what is this? And then by the end of the day, they were chopping, they were dicing, they ate everything. They literally ate all the vegetables that they'd never even seen. And that's because they participated, they put in the effort, they learn, and so they will try it. And yes, they might not try it at first go, but don't give up. Like keep it a routine. They will get used to it and they'll eat it. And then the other thing that I always tell parents is, well, give them some options. So if you want to start what I call Eat to Explore program, so let's start with what country you want to explore. If you want to try Japan, right? And there's 3 recipes. You can say, okay, now these are the 3 recipes. Which one do you think you might want to try? So let them be the one that guide and be owning it. So they need to own it, and then they need to participate, and then they will try it.
Yeah. When you were talking about that, the first thing that the word that came to mind was disconnected. Our kids are so disconnected from their food. It's like, it's almost just, you're served this, but they don't understand like what the process is to get their food from what it originally is to where they eat. And I mean, we've known that for a while, like, when people go to grocery stores and they're like, what do you mean that there's an animal that's killed to get this beef?
It's true.
It's crazy. But, even vegetables, and, we owned a small farm for 5 years, and it taught my kids so many life skills about the food and the work and why it's so expensive. Because when you want quality food, it's going to cost, because there's a lot of work involved with that and labor. And
agreed. How it goes from a seed into a plant, into a fruit, like into a food that's served on your plate. It's a process, and it's science. It's truly science.
Yes. Yeah. That is. Uh, That's, I think, a great thing for parents to hear, because I think they get frustrated when their child is
Right.
not eating a lot, and they almost feel like I have to do this feeding therapy. I have to do, whatever. But this is a whole like natural, like the way that kids were meant to be raised to
Yeah.
eat
Yes.
approach. And I love that, because
Yes.
it doesn't like take them away from the food further. It brings them to, well, and as well as life skills that they're going
Yep.
to use as they get older and take out, two of my kids live on their own already, of the three, and they cook for themselves. They have to.
Right. Right. Yes,
And
I
so,
agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And imagine also the bond, like not just it is the bonding, and I truly believe like eating whole food, eating something that you make from like the actual food, and make it a balanced meal. It's so important, and it teaches them healthy eating from day one. You know,
right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's,
so
I mean, we all need to work on that a little bit. But I know, our lives are also really busy. So how do parents and families, balance that convenience with the need to be doing all these things and teaching all these things to their kids?
So I always said, we're all busy, but if you just say once a week, make it a routine, right? You
Right.
can dedicate 3 hours of your week, whole week. That's all you need, right? And even if you eat out most of the days or just have simple meal, like just one day where you can bond, you can, make a date out of it, like a family date night, I call it, right? Um,
Right. Yeah.
it's not that big of a commitment if you just think of it in baby steps, right? It's just like once a week. That's it.
Right.
And
That's
kids
great.
can
Yeah.
give you the time, parents can make the time, and yeah, it has to be a routine. I think sometimes we always get so busy. I love my routine. I need to know what I'm doing every week, and routine. Even
Right.
kids' babies love routine.
They
So
do. Yes.
right. I think
Yeah.
especially in today's world where I feel we are like so busy with so much in our face, like taking a pause and just say, all right, take off the computer, take off the social media. Let's just play
Right.
some music, right? And make
Hmm.
some meal and let's sit and eat. It's actually healthy and refreshing.
It is, yes. And you're not only creating a routine, you're creating a tradition. And I think we
Yeah.
forget that we are establishing our own culture within our home when we make those executive decisions as parents, that this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to allocate our time. And but sometimes we just need a little help, and that's where it's nice
Yeah.
when somebody like you comes along and says, okay, here's how I can help you create this tradition of incorporating culture into your food and these family nights. And so that's awesome.
I have
Yeah.
one thing to add. I just forgot a customer that shared with us a video or photo, and it was so cute. They make not just the food, but the whole dining table was like set up to celebrate that country. So the
Oh,
kid was
cool.
like, okay, he's like, okay, now start planning what is the table setting. So they become
Yes.
like a full event of like table setting and all that. So
Mhm.
it's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, our family has done that too. We did a lot of culture studies when we were homeschooling, just because I did unit studies, and
Yeah.
so we ate, sitting on the floor when we did the Japanese food, and my kids learned to eat with chopsticks, and so yes, you can take that experience even
Yeah.
beyond the
Yeah.
just the food part of it, and create an entire atmosphere, and so yeah, and those are memories that my kids and myself too, are very vivid, because we did create that space and made it an event,
Yep.
basically. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's awesome. So, um, so yeah, having dinner as an experience is just so impactful. Um, so Are there any traditions from your own family that you've incorporated with the kits when when you first started putting them together and figuring out what would be included with them? How did you kind of determine what the components would be impactful to the families, like the recipe, what you include with all the descriptions and the
Yeah,
that?
because when I first thought of Eat to Explore, I know it's got to do with food, it's got to do with culture. And culture is a big word, right? It has
Yes.
traditions, it has history, you got geography that you your social studies. It's a big topic. So we try to like do all the research for you to make it easy. But I can always touch upon more on certain things, which is why we always have blogs on certain celebrations.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we have, as part of Eat to Explore, we actually have a lesson plan, which you can download. There's a booklet to learn about all the different subjects. But we also added last year a membership portal where we're constantly adding new blogs about a celebration or about an ingredients, or I added like the cooking videos. I started a monthly YouTube video on the third Wednesday of the month, so check it out. It's just rotating different country. It's at 6 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. So this coming, actually tomorrow, we have one at 6 p.m. Making our new country Irish corned beef, I think. A little late, but I can't schedule the time to do it.
Yeah.
but anyway, just saying that there's so much to learn, and just start somewhere.
Right, exactly. As you were talking about that, and we do focus a lot of our like food traditions around celebrations or different holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, so when we come to that holiday season, what a perfect time to incorporate that. Like right now, like you said, the Irish corned beef, it was St. Patrick's Day yesterday. So so that makes sense. And families are looking for those resources. And so that's just another way to enhance that. But also the thing I was thinking about was we eat so quickly in our country, and our bodies need that time to digest. And so if making this an experience will make your family sit longer and enjoy that food even more. Have you seen that happen with families that are using your curriculum? They feel like it isn't just a rush to sit down and then we leave and everybody goes their own way.
Well, I think, by cooking and sitting and then talking about the country that we have just experienced, sort of already prolonging that eat and go, like TV dinner, right? It's not TV dinner, right? You're actually sitting and talking about it. And we also like to give passports so the kids could rate whether they like this food or not. So the passport is meant to be like, okay, what do you like about this dish? What don't you like? And so you can spark a conversation that way too.
Yes.
Right. And actually, before I forget, I totally missed your question about traditions. Like for me personally, I'm Chinese, so like Chinese New Year dinner is big in my family, and so it's also always still coincide with the kids coming back from college, and we always cook together. And same thing with Thanksgiving and stuff. So I think if you, as a family, of course, we all being American is a mix of different culture. You can now celebrate that culture, right? If you're partial Irish, you can do St. Patrick's Day. And if you're partial German, you can do a German holiday and stuff. So I think it's fun to then say, how many percent are you? Like, are you 25% this and 30% this? And what should we celebrate? So that also is a conversation starter.
Absolutely. Yes, it is. And it's interesting when you've brought over food cultures and then to go back to a country, because my husband and I, we make lefse, which is a it's a Norwegian flatbread.
Yeah.
And every holiday we pull out this lefse maker. You know, I do the potatoes from scratch. I don't use the powdered ones. And when we went to Norway this last summer, I asked one of the tour guides, I'm like, I want to try lefse here. And he goes, nobody makes it. He goes, my wife makes it at home, but you can't buy it in the grocery store. He goes, the stuff is just, very subpar. We did end up finding like one somewhere. And then it was like, oh, this is really bad. So you realize that sometimes you make it better, you know, from the traditional recipes in your own country than they do there. But it's one of those cultural things that was just passed down with our family. So, but it's good to keep those traditions alive for your kids too, because they're going to pass that along.
Yeah. Actually, funny. So I grew up in Malaysia, and my family migrated from China. Well, they were laborer from China to Malaysia, and Southeast Asia. The Chinese, they're considered overseas Chinese. So a lot of the traditions, like you said, get passed down, and we're still practiced, but it is no longer practiced in China. You know what I mean? It's interesting, just like what you said, we know it. We just, you know, it's kind of sad, like, you know, going back to the original country, and they're like, oh, we don't do that anymore. Whereas here we still practice it.
Yes. Yeah. But it's a tradition now in our family, and I'm sure my kids will continue it because they love it.
I love that. Yeah. I love it. I love that.
It's not an easy food to make.
Maybe that's why. It's a labor of love.
Yes, exactly. It is. So what is one global dish that you think every family should try?
Ooh, okay. I love Asian food, and I actually, I would say Asian, like Malaysia, where I come from, or Singapore food. There's this chicken rice that's very, very easy to make, but it's just delicious, like soy chicken and chicken rice. And then I also love, in our Japan box, I love Japanese food, this cabbage pancake that was also very good. It's like, it's called okonomiyaki, and it's just cabbage pancake that's just amazing. So I don't know. Every country have like some unique food that I love. So it's very hard.
That's good. Yes, it's good that it's hard to choose, because we should increase our palate. And
exactly.
Yeah. So, I had a question for you. I'd love for you to give some tips to parents who are kind of a little bit on the wary side of giving their child a knife to cut. And so,
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there. The reason why my kids were like 9, 11, and they're like, "What is the onion?" is because I just didn't want them to get hurt, right? I don't want to, go to ER. But 2 lessons learned. It's first of all, kids need to fail to learn. They need to fail and kind of maybe a little nick, but they will learn from that lesson, right? But we actually nowadays more and more, you have this knife, like a serrated knife, and we sell them at Eat to Explore. That's good for kids. You know, they will not. They can cut the vegetables very easily. May not be able to cut like meat, but they can cut vegetables. So if you start knife skill, it's a confidence, and they're used to it. We also have like a finger protector, so you can kind of put it around it, so they will only cut this way, and they'll never cut your fingers. So that's another option. But I always say give them the serrated kid's knife to start when they're young, and then they will get used to it. Another thing is, I always tell my kids when they were younger, I say, don't worry about how it looks, right? You can be small, big, but when you cook it, it's all going to taste the same, right? It's the idea is to start learning at very young age, and once they build up the skill, then you can slowly incorporate a real like chef knife. You might be able to go from a plastic baby serrated knife to like maybe a butter knife, to then slowly incorporate into a smaller knife to a big knife. But baby steps. I think you have to start somewhere. You're not going to give them a big chef knife on day one.
Right.
And then even like on the stove, teach them about how to do it. That's why we always say it's a family box, because parents has to be present. It's a family activity. You need to be there to teach and be there to connect and be there to guide and be there to observe and make sure they don't get hurt.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you're just learning along with them if you don't
Right.
know how to do it already.
And then exactly. And then when they're older, and then if you've done this a while, they will be able to do the meal themselves, and then you can just sit and relax and with a glass of wine.
Yeah. And watch them cook. And yes.
Exactly.
And they can even go shopping on their own. I think that in itself is, sending somebody to the store to buy something. If they don't know how to read a label, if they don't know exactly what they're looking for, if they don't know where it's located in the grocery store, those are huge things. And these grocery stores these days are giant, and
I agree.
Thousands and thousands of products.
Yes.
So you do have to learn how to navigate that space.
Yep.
I used to send my husband to the grocery store, and he'd say, how do you know that I'm going to get to this before I get to that? I'm like, because I have mapped out the entire store in my head.
I know the
if you go down this aisle that way. Yeah.
It is true. It's like navigation, absolutely. Right? Like driving. So if they've done it a few times, they can do it themselves. And the other thing is also with kids is they want to excel. They want to move on to the big adult life. So they will be more willing to okay, I'm ready now, right? So you got to be willing to give them a try. And that's how they learn. Yeah.
I know as parents, we want to protect our kids.
I truly, that was my lesson. I believe yes, they can be protected, but at some point you need to learn how to let go, because otherwise they cannot function as an adult, right? Our job sort of give them the guidance, and we have to step back and let them do it themselves. And that's why cooking it's as a family, it's almost like a true life skills. It's like you teach them in the safety of your home, and then when they're old enough, they can be there, travel independently in a foreign country, and remember, it's like, I remember learning about this with my mom and my dad, and now I'm curious, and I'm here in this country. So there is that part too, where they actually are growing up and they're traveling there. They are not surprised. They're confident.
Right. Yes. Because trying to find a McDonald's when you're in another country is why? Because there's so much to experience.
Why? Exactly.
Yeah. I know, and it opens doors when we've traveled internationally with our kids and gone to somebody recommended, go to this little door. There was no sign when we were in Italy, and we walked in, and there was this wood fire pizza oven, and they made the best pizza that I've ever had in my life. But only the people that knew about it went there, and we went back another time before we left because it was so good. But yes, just to kind of eat around and explore, it definitely
it makes it memorable. It makes it memorable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you meet people, you hear stories, you get the real culture instead of just kind of the tourist version of that.
Yeah.
So,
talking about a tourist version, I mean, another customer story, she wrote back and said, I had the best conversation with my Uber driver because I just got your Ethiopia box and we were making Ethiopia Doro White, and then the driver was from Ethiopia a few days later, and they ended up having a great conversation around the country and the food they ate. And so, that's another interesting, I thought, really nice review from a customer.
Absolutely. Because it does help you have those relationships even with our own country, because we are such a melting pot. And to be able to relate to people on a topic that they're they want to share about. Everybody wants to talk about their cultural food. It's
I
like part of
agree.
our heart that we share with others. So that's really cool. I love that. That's a really neat story. So as far as, like your ultimate vision for food education and shaping this next generation's cultural awareness, do you got plans ahead?
So with Eat to Explore, we just started so-called the adult version. So you can have either or, but I just think that, not only do kids need to be educated about being a global citizen and becoming so much more aware about other culture, I think everyone should be, even the adults. And I really think even not just cultural learning, but life skill of cooking. I think there's a lot of people out there who have no idea how to do it. It's not hard. It's a matter of trying. And I want to make Eat to Explore easy access. And so no excuse. It's so simple. And it's so fulfilling to really appreciate other people's culture too. And so instead of us kind of like looking at it from our perspective, we can then look at it from their perspective.
Absolutely.
So,
yes. Yeah. Because it's hard. I mean, we all have our own critiques and our tastes, and you develop those tastes like you were talking about a while ago as we experience things, and through our kind of our growing up years, we develop our palate. It's now that's a good question. Is the palate's changeable? I'm assuming, and as you introduce new foods, then you either realize that you like it or you don't. And it's kind of like the brain. Does it have some plasticity that we have this ability to change and grow?
Sorry, I missed that. So what's your question again? I apologize. Something just popped up.
Oh, no, that's okay. So as far as like our ability to change and grow with the foods we experience, if somebody has a very limited palate and they start introducing these things, I'm assuming that your body
like the kids. Yeah. Well, I think it's like, again, just like kids, it's baby steps. Right. Yes. You're not going to go from like 0 to 100 of eating like this super, like a ghost pepper, for instance. Like you never go and eat a ghost pepper on day one if you've never really taken spicy food. Right. So, and actually Eat to Explore food, like I really think people always mistaken spice as heat. Spice is not really heat, right? No. It can be like this flavorful, spicy, like spice, full of spice, but yet it's not heat. So it can be confusing. And so I think, like you said, yes, your body might not be able to take it, but so you can kind of introduce slowly, even as an adult. If you're like been vegetarian for whole life, and then now you're like slowly trying to add more protein, now you can like do a little bit less meat and like, slowly, or vice versa. But I think everything is in moderation and your body adapt. That's the beauty about all of us, right? We are just an adaptable human being, be it culture, be it food. It's like our body just adjusts. And I think just like introducing it slowly, even cooking can be done slowly, right? You may not like, maybe you start every 2-3 weeks, and then you started to make it more regular, and then start with doing things that you're used to, and then you kind of become more adventurous in trying different, more interesting ethnic food. So I think everything is in moderation.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, and so yes, I love your. Previously, you suggested once a week, setting aside the time to do that, and how simple that seems, because we all have a couple hours. We all want to spend more time with our family anyway. So why not prioritize that by making it a meal time where you can all cook together and then learn about a culture. So yes, that's awesome. So if you have one final piece of advice for parents who want to use food as a teaching tool, what would that be?
Start now. I think the sooner you start, getting them involved, making into a routine is the key. And then I think making it exciting, it's also like getting them involved, making it exciting, learning about a new country, get them pick the country, right? I think
Yes.
when they own it, I feel children, they just want respect. If you give them the ownership, right, they will be more acceptable to the changes that you're trying to implement. Yeah.
Yes.
So instead of saying, do this now because we're doing it, right? Just say, what do you want? Right? What do you want? Where do you want to go? What should we try?
And
so
then they chose
think,
it, so they kind of own it too.
Exactly.
Well, that's so cool. Well, Rowena, thank you so much for your time today. This has just been a delightful conversation. I always love talking about food, but don't get to do it that much on this show. So
I know. Once a week.
Yes. Well,
thank you so much for having me.
Inspiring, and I love all your practical tips that you shared with us today, and how you turn cooking really into an opportunity for families to explore the world, build confidence in the kitchen, and also create lasting memories. Those are all some amazing things. So for our listeners who want to find out more about you, where do they go?
Go to eat2explore.com. So, yes, exactly. We are also, I'm not sure, depending on the state, we are very much approved vendor for all homeschoolers that have funding from different states.
Okay, awesome. And we will include that link in the show notes. So if you are listening to the podcast and you're like, how does that exactly go? Just click on the link. You'll be fine. And so, and even if you're watching the video and don't want to write it down. So, but that's eat2explore.com. And yeah, you definitely want to check it out. And I'm looking forward to the adult one because I always get subscription boxes for my kids every year. And I have some very adventurous kids in eating, and I think they would love to continue to be adventurous. So
our adult box has like mocktail, cocktail recipes to match it with the drink for the meal.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate just all that you shared. And to all of you for joining us, thank you for tuning in. I hope you felt encouraged, and maybe this will bring a little culinary adventure into your homeschooling journey. Remember, food isn't about eating. It's a passport to the world right from your kitchen. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share the episode with a friend and subscribe for more insightful discussions. Plus, if you're looking for more resources, support, and encouragement on your homeschooling journey, be sure to visit Homeschool Heroes, powered by SPED Homeschool. At Homeschool Heroes, you'll find free downloads, a supportive community of parents, homeschool-friendly providers, and expert consultants ready to help you teach your child with confidence. Just join us at spedhomeschool.com and develop your homeschooling superpowers with our resources, articles, and community. We're here with you every step of the way. Until next time, bye, everybody, and we'll see you here on Empowering Homeschool Conversations. I want to take just a second to thank the team at Life Audio for their partnership with us on this podcast. If you go to lifeaudio.com, you'll find dozens of other faith-centered podcasts in their network. They've got shows about prayer, Bible study, parenting, and more.
This has been Empowering Homeschool Conversations.
For some of us, personal finances aren't just personal. They include loved ones, neighbors, the communities we call home, and the causes we hold in our hearts. At Thrivent, planning your finances is bigger than just money. We help you put your plans into motion and faith into action so you can do more for the ones in your heart. Because sometimes all you need to make a difference is someone to help you make it happen. Thrivent, where money means more. Connect with us at Thrivent.com.